Hello and welcome to the DSP project, your fix of music production and technology. I'm your host Rupert Brown, and in this episode I'm going to be reviewing the Pure Analyzer made by FLUX software. But first I just want a quick reminder for you guys that I'm giving away Studio Connect Firewire audio interface made by TC Electronic. Studio Connect 48. It is a awesome piece of kit. I've got a full review on it if you're interested, but head down to the dspproject.com/win for the details of how you can go into the draw to win that. But right now, back to the Pure Analyzer. It is a real-time analyzer designed for analyzing and measuring audio and giving you some visual feedback. Now, one of the things that makes it unique is it's actually a network-based system. So you have a lightweight plugin that does the sample acquisition out of your DAW or system, and then it is sent either wired or wirelessly via the network to another machine that hosts the actual software itself. You can host it locally, but the advantage of running it over the network means that first of all, your main DAW isn't burdened by the CPU load of running the visualization software, but also you can have multiple computers on the network all feed into this single instance of the real-time analyzer. One thing to keep in mind is it is an iLok required piece of software, so if you were going to run this on a second computer, you would need a second iLok to run that as well. Now, it comes as a modular system in 4 parts. There's the Pure Analyzer Essentials, which is the sort of the entry-level piece that you have to get, but there's also another 3 parts which come as upgrade options. There is the metering upgrade, there is the live upgrade, and the multi-channel upgrade. So first of all, let's have a look at what you get in the Essential package. Looking at the Spectrum Analyzer, this will probably be the most familiar to most of you, an indispensable common tool in just about any audio task. If you're not familiar with one of these, basically you have frequency along the bottom, so we've got the bass on the left moving through to treble on the right, and then amplitude up and down. So it basically gives us an idea of what the level is of each specific frequency inside of the audio spectrum. Now I want to talk quickly about the algorithm being used here. It's a combination of a standard DFT, which is a discrete Fourier transform, as well as their own proprietary pure spectrum algorithm. Now I can quite easily show you the difference between the two because we can actually turn the pure spectrum algorithm off. So it's currently on at the moment, but if I pull the settings down here and turn pure spectrum off, you'll immediately see a visual difference between the two. While the bass is sort of very clear and readable with a standard DFT algorithm, as the frequency increases, basically so does the resolution as well. So while we've got, in theory, we've got a lot of detail here, it winds up being just a bunch of visual noise because it's so spiky up and down. It's really hard to read what exactly is going on. So if we turn the pure spectrum back on, and I'm also told by FLUX that this more closely models how the human hearing works. But also you'll see in the high end here, while we've got in theory a loss in the resolution, it's actually a lot more usable because it's not just that band of visual noise. Now I can navigate through this using the Alt key, so if I hold down Alt and select a specific frequency, I can zoom in to that way, or I can hold down Alt and use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. I can even, if I hold down Alt and click, it brings me back out to the visual extents. Pushing the second mouse button brings up options to customize it here. I'm not going to go through everything because there's heaps here, but I'll just quickly touch on a few of my favorite options. So you can set the range, you can set the ballistics, so you can sort of slow this down here. But one thing I think is really cool is the peak label. So my favorite is the mark plus arrow. So you can see here it's showing us exactly where the peak is, and in the top right hand corner giving us the specific frequency and level of that peak. Really handy if you are working on a mix and you've got some nasty little frequency popping out. Maybe if you're doing live sound and you visually need to see sort of feedback problems or anything like that, a really handy tool to have built in there as well. You can customize all the colors and everything very customizable. We can turn the fill off like that if that color's too much for you, or if you're not the rainbow gay pride thing's a bit too much for you, you can turn that off. I actually like the rainbow on because it sort of ties in with some of the other graphs that we'll have a look at in the moment. I should mention that this is a summed version we're looking at here, which means the left and right signal are basically mixed together to create this one block. We can turn summed mode off and have a separate plane for the left and right channel, and if you take that out to surround, you can have also a separate up to 5 to 8, I think, 8 channels, all in this one view with a different color for each layer, so you can see which would be intense, but you should be able to see what each channel is doing. So that is the spectrum analyzer. So next, let's look at the Nebula. It is a spatial spectrogram, which is basically like if a frequency analyzer like we've got here at the top and a vector scope like we've got here down at the bottom, if those two had a baby, you'd end up with the Nebula. It's a really cool tool. Basically, we've got it's showing us the spectral content, but it's localizing it inside the stereo space. So you can see here with the colors, we've got the sort of the red at the bottom, so we've got the bass at the bottom working through to the treble here at the top. I can tell just by taking a quick peek at this that the sub is definitely not mono. The bass part of the portion of this audio is it's got a lot happening in the stereo field, so I know that's not mono. So if this was going to be a pre-master for vinyl, that's something I would have to take care of. I can also see that in the high end is sort of leaning to the left slightly. It's something that we can kind of see a bit here in the vector scope, but really shows up a lot more in this Nebula view. So just with this tool, just taking a quick look, I can instantly kind of see exactly what's happening as far as spectrally left and right with just a glance. And there's plenty of options again if you want to change the colors, the blending and the focus, and it's all customizable to get it how you want it, but a really nice tool for quickly showing you exactly what's happening across the full spectrum. Next up, looking at the vector scope, this is a standard vector scope, so it shows us the difference between the left and right channels. If we had a mono signal coming in, we would have a straight vertical line up and down, but as soon as you get any stereo separation, it starts to deviate from that and shows us these lovely squiggles. Now, if these squiggles started to move slightly to the left or the right, that can show us that there's a bit more energy in the left or right channel, as well as we've got a phase correlation meter down the bottom here. So if this little dot sliding back and forth was hanging out below 0, so you can see that's 0, +1 on that side, -1 on that side. If it was hanging out below the 0 too much, then I would know that we've got a phase issue that would need amending. Plenty of options here as well. You can change the color and customize it to suit. Next we have the metering section, which comprises of 2 meters. We've got an RMS dB meter, comes with a bunch of options. You can even change the scale, obviously the colors and everything is all customizable. You can even save your own presets for the RMS meter as well. Moving over to the right, we have got the dBFS, which is full scale, which is like your peak 0 inside of the digital realm. I'm not sure if realm's the right word. I think realm's where wizards come from, but you know what I mean. Peak 0 inside of digital audio. Okay, to see the last two in the Essential suite, we're going to have to change the layout. So we've got at the top here, we've got source, so you can have multiple instances running on your network on all different machines, which you can select from the source option here. But underneath that, we've got layout. Now, as it's only the Essential version, I've only got four different options here, but we will see later on that can be expanded. So I'm going to move over to the spectrogram. So the spectrogram basically just shows us the spectrum over time. So again, we've got the rainbow color scheme helps us out to make sense of it. We can see instantly that the bass is down the bottom, the treble's up the top, and then the amplitude shows us is shown in sort of the density of the color. So this is a pretty dense full mix, so we get a pretty consistent bar. I'm going to quickly change the audio out to something a bit more interesting. So here we have some audio from the Master Aphex Twin. Definitely a lot more interesting to look at on the spectrograph. So you can kind of see here, I can't play the audio to you guys for copyright reasons, but this tune's actually called Equation, and it's you can find it on YouTube along with it, and you can see what he's done here is pretty clever. He's and he's definitely not the first person to have done it, but has actually implanted an image inside of the spectrally inside of the audio itself. So if you YouTube it, you can go and you hear the audio along with the image. But it just goes to show that there's certain things that you can see on the spectrograph that you wouldn't pick up in an ordinary view like that. So I'm just hitting tab here to cycle through the different modes. And the last one in the essential package here is the wave scope, which is essentially like a oscilloscope. Again, you've got a couple options there, but it kind of is what it is. It's a straight wave scope. And that's everything that you get in the essential bundle. So as you can see, it's a very attractive piece of software, very nice to look at, very nice to use. But don't let the eye candy fool you. It's definitely a very professional piece of software, very comprehensive, and that lends itself all the way through to the manual. You've got a large 125-page manual that details just about every option inside of the software. And it's nice to have that sort of depth of a technical reference when you're talking about a product that it's a fairly technical product. So just coming back to the options, I mainly focused on the essential package and on the metering options, because they're the ones that I use as a mastering engineer and as a producer. However, you also have options for live engineers, which includes an array of tools, including impulse response for calibrating speaker arrays, and again, the depth of options is all there, right through to the air temperature, as that can affect the speed of sound for calibrating things. And then for the multi-channel upgrade, it's centered around sort of a similar sort of style to that Nebula display that you saw, but for surround sound. So a few sort of surround sound scopes, and they come also in a variety of speaker configurations. So depending on where the speaker placement is, you've got different scopes for those configurations. So however, like I say, I focus on the essential package and the metering package. So let's have a look at what you get with the metering package. Now I've installed the extra metering options, so you can see a few extra bits on the screen here. Let's start with the actual metering section itself. We've still got the dB RMS meter, but the dBFS, the full scale meter, has been replaced with dBTP or true peak. Now, 0 is not always 0. In the digital domain realm, we have traditionally relied on dBFS to show us 0, the highest level possible before clipping. However, due to something called intersample peaks, what reads as 0 in the digital domain can become louder during the digital to analog conversion process. So basically, digital 0 does not always equal analog 0. Sometimes levels in excess of plus 3 dB can occur, which will cause clipping inside of your DAC, and it's not what you want. So True Peak tries to counter that by upsampling in a similar way that DACs actually do, to measure these intersample peaks to give you a more accurate measurement. Although one thing I would like to note though is if you are using this for a mastering application, you still need to allow some headroom. You can't go right up to 0. The reason for this being is even using a true peak meter and staying below 0, the inevitable MP3 encoding process, which is probably going to end up happening to the music, can add some extra level. So if it's really important to avoid clipping the DAC, then you definitely want to leave yourself a bit of extra headroom. On the end here we have a loudness meter, the EBU R128. Now one thing to quickly explain about loudness is it's not like dB or SPL where it's something you can physically measure. Loudness refers to your subjective experience, how loud you perceive music to be, or music or any sound you perceive it to be. And because it's a perception thing, it can actually vary from person to person. For that and many other reasons, it's been a very difficult thing to actually measure and slap a number on up until this point. However, there is now a world standard for loudness. It's 1770 if you want to look into the technical details of it, and it's quite interesting if you're that way inclined. But basically, we have a world standard for loudness now. So the EBU have come along, who are the European Broadcasting Union, and they have set a standard and a measuring unit in LU and LUFS. So you can see the LUFS number here, and this is what's really important to the broadcast guys, because basically they've set a standard of minus 23 LUFS. So the LUFS, if you think back to, we had DBFS, which was dB full scale. Well, it's the same sort of thing. We've got LU stands for loudness units, so we've got loudness units full scale, and you've basically got to set your audio to minus 23 LUFS. So what this all means is, hopefully, if we get people complying with this, and I believe it is all going ahead, we should hopefully see an end to the big jump in loud commercials between TV programs, and all of that sort of really annoying stuff. So this is quite an exciting development inside of the broadcast world. I think this standard only came in maybe about a year ago or so, roughly. So it is relatively new. Unfortunately, there is no LUFS standard for inside of music, but this kind of technology is very exciting. It shows that there is change, and it can definitely be one of the tools used in hopefully ending the quote-unquote loudness wars. So down the bottom here, that's the loudness meter. Down the bottom here, we have basically got a metering history here, so we can see if anything pops up into the red here. We've got a timeline that we can go back and find where. Again, this is going to be more helpful maybe for broadcast if you're working on film or anything like that, but there's a nice history there that you can see. So now with this upgrade applied, if we look at the layouts, we've now got a lot of different modes for the layout. So I'm just going to tab through and show you some of the different layouts. So here we've got our spectrogram popping up. And so they're basically just different configurations of the same tools, but it's nice having an option for the different layouts depending on what's more important to your workflow. And this is an interesting one, the metering stats here. So basically how it works is they show you the average and the range of some of the metered levels, but what's really quite interesting about this is you can actually load files in. So if I push the little plus here, you can like batch run through audio files. So if you're doing let's say again sound for an entire movie and you wanted to double check that you haven't got any peaks on all of your 5.1 channels, you can load all the files in, and it will actually sort of offline process all of the media in the queue, and then you can go in and say, hey, look, I've got in the rear channel at 2 hours and 15 seconds in, there's a peak there that I need to take care of. So with the extra metering option, you have a very comprehensive set of tools. However, unfortunately, it's not all happy, joy. I do have some negative things to say about this software as well, in particular regarding the quality of the code that runs beneath it. For a starter, it uses up 25% CPU, and I have a very well spec'd machine here. I can run a DAW session with 25 channels and plugins and not hit 25%. It takes 24 seconds to boot up from start. Again, I don't think any other piece of software on my machine takes longer than 5 seconds to boot up. The software feels the need to play with the sample rates on my audio interface. If it's set at 44.1, it opens up fine, but I usually run at 96K. So even though the FLUX software is set at 96K, it feels the need to switch the audio interface back down to 44.1 and then back up to 96K. A lot of these problems don't really amount to much if you are going to run it over a network on a separate machine. In which case, you know, the CPU and usage and like the boot up obviously doesn't really matter because, you know, you can wait 25 seconds for it to boot up, but it does make me question the quality of the code behind it. So I did have issues with the sample rate switching. I approached FLUX support guys. I sent them an email. I said, hey, this is the problem I'm having. Can you recommend anything? How do we move forward? and I didn't get a reply at all. So it's a bit of a fail from their support team. I would have liked just one human email, even if it just said, that's the way it is, deal with it, or something would have been nice. But I got absolutely no reply out of them at all. So that was a little bit of a disappointment. So that's the negative things. However, like I say, if you are going to run this on a separate machine, keeping in mind you're going to need a separate computer, a separate iLock dongle over the network. If you are going to do that and have it dedicated, then I don't think any of these quibbles are really going to have any impact on you. Once it's running, it's perfectly stable, and obviously the CPU and the CPU issues and things aren't really going to affect you at all. So it kind of depends on how you want to run it as to whether it's going to be whether those things are going to impact on you or not. So let's talk about the pricing. It's €279 for the essential package, which you have to get, and then the additional options are €149 each. So for the essential package and the metering, like I had, you're looking at about €428. Now, is it worth €428? That depends entirely on what you're doing. It is capable of such a broad array of jobs. If you're working in a post-production house, then yes, it's totally worth it. Get a separate machine, and the cost is going to be nothing to those guys. If you're aligning big speaker arrays, then yes, it's well worth it. Again, that cost doesn't really have much of an impact on you at all. If you are working, like doing mastering work like I am, so again, it's something where I'm making an income from it, then I think it is worth it. But if you're running it on the same machine like I am, make sure that you've got a very well-spec'd computer and be ready for that 25% CPU hit. If you're just like a bedroom producer and you're looking for a nice spectrum analyzer, I don't know, that's when it starts to look expensive. €279 for a spectrum analyzer. I mean, and it is, maybe that's a bit unfair, it is a bit more than that, but keep in mind that this isn't going to change your audio at all. So if there are some tools that you are missing that could actually improve the quality of your audio, maybe your money would be better spent on those tools instead of something that's just a pure analysis tool. So it really depends on what you're doing and what your setup is as to whether or not it's worth the money. However, even with all those niggles, I have really enjoyed using it. It's probably the most comprehensive metering system I've seen. If you know something better, then please leave a comment in the underneath here. I would be very interested to hear what you guys have to say. But as far as I can see, there's not much that touches it as far as an attractive and comprehensive analysis system. So that's my review of the Pure Analyzer by FLUX. I just want to mention again, if you're interested in winning a beautiful Firewire audio interface, the TC Electronics Studio Connect 48 is up for grabs. Just head down to theDSPproject.com/win for the details of how that can be yours. Also samples, if you head down to Loop Masters, they've got heaps of good samples there. Please use the code DSP10 and that lets them know that I sent you. And finally, if you have any requirement for mastering work, please head down to DSP Mastering, and also I'm happy to answer any of your questions you may have regarding mastering, or if you've got a project coming up and you just want to touch base, then that's cool as well. You can contact me through the site there. That's all for this episode of the DSP Project. I'll see you next time.